This is going to be our presentation on culture shock. My name is Ashton Mancuso.
And my name is Emma Larman.
Culture shock is a disorientation that's experienced when suddenly subjected to an unfamiliar culture. It's just an inevitable process that people are going to go through when they're in an unfamiliar territory. This can be work or domestic. It can be both at the same time. Culture shock symptoms can be irritability, anger, hostility, depression, making every excuse not to go outside, constant worry about, the purity of the food and the water. They also have 5 stages. They have the initial honeymoon stage, which is like per se the pink cloud. You go, you feel more like a tourist. You're excited about the restaurants, excited about the things that you're going to see. And then over time, you begin to kind of go into the second stage. It's called the distress stage. It is where the initial romance, where the pink cloud feeling goes away. You start to settle in and learning more about the people and the culture. And so that's where the loneliness kind of sets in. You start to not feel at one with the locals. Then over time, you go into the third stage, and this is really the bulk of where culture shock sets in. It's more the crisis, depression, and anger stage. You start to begin to feel irritability and hostility when it comes to trying to relate. You begin to get stressed out about the smallest things. They blow up into in what their mind considers a catastrophe while they're either doing domestic or international business. Then we go into the 4th stage. It's the gradual adjustment autonomy stage. You begin to get more of your humor and a better perspective. It's not so much the anger and hostility toward the culture. It's more a perspective of how can I better understand them? How can I become one with them? So it becomes less isolated and into a more comfortable stage. And then we come to the feeling at home stage. That's pretty much where you feel at one with the culture. You begin to get more comfortable with the way that they do certain things, what's acceptable and what's not. It's not new anymore. It's almost, you consider it your culture.
So culture shock is very important for international business because as globalization has been happening, we have a lot of companies that are going international or even global. So oftentimes they'll take an individual out of their home country, out of their country of citizenship, and move them across to a foreign country. And this is called an expatriate or an expat. And this is important because a lot of U.S. businesses have had failures with their expatriates. In fact, the U.S. companies incur about $2 billion a year on expatriate failures. And they looked at things such as the percent of expatriates that came home prematurely. They looked at how many expatriates quit the organization when they came back home. And they also looked at the success that the expatriate did on its assignments while abroad. And according to a survey they did of 196 human resource managers, the top 2 causes for expatriation failure is at 30%, a family's inability to adjust to the foreign culture, and then at 28%, the expatriate couldn't adapt to the foreign culture. So with all of these losses, it's necessary that expatriates can minimize the culture shock that they feel while abroad. So how can companies do this? Well, first, you have to recruit the right people to be expatriated. They need to look at and ask questions of, do this person's qualifications match the job that they're going to be doing? What are the cultural constraints that they have? And is the host organization's environment going to be a good fit for this candidate? Some other dimensions that they need to consider is, what's their degree of ethnocentrism? Do they view their own culture as being superior to the other culture? Do they have intercultural experience and intercultural knowledge? What's their cognitive flex? So is their mind open to the values, the ideas, and the environment of the foreign culture? What's the behavioral flex? Can they adapt their behavior to fit the status quo of this foreign country? And what are their interpersonal skills? So once they find the right candidate, they need to do proper training techniques to mitigate culture shock. So they look at language as being very important. You know, menus are going to be written differently. Signs are going to be in a foreign language. People are going to be communicating. And they need to have a strong language background in order to form relationships and to get around their day-to-day matters. They need to undergo cultural training. They should go and do case studies to see the similarities and dissimilarities between the cultures. They need to engage in bicultural communication, ideally with somebody that they're going to be meeting in the foreign country so that they have an established relationship already. And they should also have field trips to the host country. This will give them a better idea of what life is going to be like once they move, and it'll mitigate some of those symptoms of culture shock. Now, as we mentioned, family is very important to the success of the expatriate. So the family also needs to undergo the same cross-cultural training. They need to be fluent in the language, they should understand the cultural differences, and the company should also assist in the day-to-day matters of the family. The quicker a routine can get set down, the more successful the expatriate should be. So they will assist with things such as finding daycare and schools, to banking, transportation, and even getting a shopping routine down. Now, a lot of times when they're gone, things change in the home country. Popular culture is different. Organizational changes will occur in the parent company, and even friends' daily lives will change. So it's important to mitigate re-entry shock that the expatriate feels when he comes home. So to do this, companies should offer vacation days to the home country, ideally at least 2 weeks out of the year. They also need to update the expatriate on parent operation matters. Any permanent changes should be communicated. And of course, regular communication must be upkept. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashton. She brought a clip in.
And the video that we're going to present to you is a video from my own personal life. It's my parents. You're going to see a video of my mom. And what happened is they came from Baton Rouge and they were sent to North Carolina for my dad to work for their company. And so he was transported from Baton Rouge to North Carolina, where his company helped him move. And he began to work at the plant in North Carolina. And then from there, after working there for, I guess, half a year or a little bit more than that, they offered him to go to Antofagasta, Chile. And so from North Carolina to Chile, that's where he is now. And the video that they sent us was from Chile. And there's just a lot of cultural differences, not only personally, but internationally. And she's going to fully explain to you.
Hi, my name's Jackie Flitter. My husband Greg Flitter is an LSU graduate as a civil engineer. He works for Albemarle Corporation as a project engineer, and he's been there about 16 years. Albemarle is an international corporation with plants in places like Germany, China, Korea, Jordan, and the United States. This year, my husband was relocated from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Albemarle's lithium plant in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. However, for the past 3 months, he has been in Chile, South America, and it looks like he'll be there into next year. He's at one of Albemarle's lithium plants, and we are recording this from Chile, South America. Moving from Louisiana to North Carolina, there were slight changes between the two cultures. However, there are many more differences between American culture and Chilean culture. Language is probably number one. Most Chileans speak Spanish. Menus are in Spanish, and they use Chilean pesos instead of dollars. Another is the weather. Right now it's spring in Chile, in October, with summer beginning by December. Most apartments and homes are not air conditioned because summers are mild, not getting over about 85 degrees, and being very dry as it rarely rains. There's a slower pace here. From a business perspective, it takes longer to get work done, longer for changes to be made and implemented. Employees are more laid back and not in a hurry to complete tasks. The government here in Chile requires that employers provide transportation to and from work for the employees. And they also require them to provide work clothing and lunch. As you can see, this is the port of Antofagasta, Chile. Due to many items having to be imported, such as packaged goods, canned goods, personal products, and clothing, those items are more expensive than in the U.S. And they don't have dollar stores to go buy cheaper items. Along the port is a home goods store called Sodimac, a grocery store called Totus, and the Mall of Falabella. Another distinct cultural difference is the attitude of Chileans. Walking down the street, they won't make eye contact with each other or greet you. They don't have the hospitality of Louisiana, nor are they courteous, especially when trying to shop. These are just a few of the cultural differences between Chile and the United States. Chile has its own beauty, but lacks in some of the great things that Louisiana is known for, especially hospitality. Thank you.
So that was really good. So she talks a whole lot about the dissimilarities between Louisiana and Chile. So do you think that they've been experiencing some of those symptoms you talked about?
I think so. I think my mom more so, because my dad has transferred a lot recently with the company that he's worked for. And due to them being older and at that stage where they're ready to retire, it was a lot easier, I believe, for him than it was for my mom. She experienced, I feel like, more of the stages of culture shock than he did. But she also went over there to be with him just as a partner, not as having a job. So for her, you know, it's kind of hit her more with the loud noise from the city. So a lot of sleepless nights. She's kind of been, you know, having a lot more of the health issues when it comes down to the symptoms from going from here to there.
And I know you talked about the different stages of culture shock. I know your dad went earlier than your mom. What stages do you think they're at right now?
Well, my dad's been there for a couple months, so he's more at the feeling at home stage. He's kind of got his routine down with going to work every day and, you know, on the weekends kind of relaxing and enjoying, you know, the weather, because with it being so hot here, you know, like she said, it is more dry, so it's not as humid. And so they're able to experience the great climate that they do have because they are in their spring. And so I think my dad's at the feeling at home stage. He's starting to learn more about their language. He's comfortable with how they deal with the business contracts and how they deal with the day-to-day things. Now, I think my mom is more still in the tourist stage. She's, you know, experiencing going to the beach and going to, you know, enjoying the mountain view and enjoying, you know, their malls and their shopping and all of that. But I feel like she's going to be going into that second stage soon. But I feel like she is kind of in the touristy stage right now.
No, I definitely agree with you because she does kind of touch a little bit of the weather being different. So it seems like she's transitioning a little to the second stage.
But I think you studied abroad and or had a trip abroad, and so what was your experience with that?
Well, I did a study abroad to China. It was a 10-day trip, and you know, I had been planning on going to China for a couple of years. So I had already been reading up on the cultural differences. I was very excited to go, and when I got there, some of my peers hadn't researched as much, and of course they don't have, you know, very much they have a little bit, but not much cross-cultural training. So when we went, it was interesting. We were all very excited to go, and everybody kind of experienced the stages differently. So, you know, some of us when we got there, we were ready to sit down, have our first meal, and some other people immediately, that's when they hit that second stage, that, oh my goodness, I can't eat this food, this is so different. And it was interesting too, because I had a friend that already went to China, so I already knew that they use like squat toilets. It's kind of in the floor, much different than like our Western style toilet. So I went to the bathroom with a couple of the other girls in my group, and it was the first time we had encountered a squat toilet. It was in Qingdao, because Shanghai is very international. They had westernized toilets most places we went. So when we went into the bathroom, they were just taken aback by it. They didn't want to use the bathrooms. They just waited till they went to the hotel because it was just too much of a culture shock for them.
Wow.
So if they had maybe done a little more research or gotten a little more cross-cultural training, it might have like mitigated that stress some for them.
That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is our presentation on culture shock. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you.